everybody. I am Jaime Zegarra from Dentons, Peru. We're here to talk about the highlights of labor and employment of 2023 and what's going on and what's going to happen during 2024. For these purposes, is here with us Fernando Neville from Dentons, Argentina, Mercedes Espinoza from Dentons, Mexico, and Roberta Santos da Silva from Dentons, Brazil. So please, let's begin with Fernando, who is going to help us understand about all these new changes that has been happening in Argentina. As we know, Argentina has been dealing with a very important and significant economic crisis during the last years. Now he has a new government who had issued some new regulation in labor matters. Well, many matters, but right now talking about labor, which is going to be explained by Fernando. Please, Fernando.
Hi, Jaime, thank you. Yes, our new president, Javier Milei, in his first weeks of his administration, he issued several measures to fix our economy. Among those, he issued an emergency decree declaring the national economic emergency and providing for the deregulation of the national economy. Through this decree, he eliminated or modified more than 300 regulations. Among some of them, we have labor laws. So I will go quickly through which I consider the main labor points of this decree. First of all, the decree eliminates fines for unregistered or improperly registered employment contracts. Our labor regulations provided for very expensive fines in these cases. So this implies a huge reduction of litigation costs for employers. The decree also gives unions and business organizations the possibility to replace the current severance compensation system, which in almost every activity is the best monthly salary of the employee times his years of service, to replace this for a compensation fund, which will be borne by the employer with monthly contributions that cannot exceed the employee's 8% salary. This replacement has to be agreed in collective bargaining agreements. And according to the news, there are some unions that have already said that they are interested in this change. Another important change is the increase of the trial period from 3 months to 8 months. So I think that now we are on the top of the of the league in trial periods in the region.
I think you are, which is very interesting.
If I'm not wrong, I think we are, and this is this is important because the employer may, as you know, the employer may dismiss an employee during the trial period without paying any severance compensation.
Now, it's interesting. Does this increase of that trial period is going to be enforced for the new relationships, or for example, if somebody began on November, his trial period is going to be ended on July 2024?
Well, it's hard to say what happens with the trial periods that are now ongoing, because depending on how you see this, it can be a benefit for the employee or not. Because an employee may say, well, I can be dismissed without being paid a severance compensation for a longer time, but at the same time, if the employee is not working well, he has more time to be tested. So I think that maybe the Ministry of Labor should issue some clarifications about these matters. What occurs with the ongoing relationships in these cases? Another very important matter that brought this decree is the creation of a special category for independent contractors that is called independent worker with collaborators. These are independent contractors that might hire up to 5 people to provide certain services. And the decree expressly mentions that there will be no employment relationship between the independent contractor and the principal, and there will be no employment relationship between the dependent contractor and the people he hires.
Mhm.
This is important because we have had long discussions about misclassification of independent contractors here in Argentina.
That happens to all here in the
Yeah,
region.
in almost every country. And another point I would like to highlight is related to strikes. The decree provides some limitations to strikes. It includes the union blockades as a fair cause for termination. And this is aimed to prevent employees from organizing coercive protests, impeding access to the workplace, or impeding other employees to work. This decree is now in force, and it will be analyzed by a bicameral committee of the Congress. And after that, the Congress will have to approve or reject the decree. Only in case that the 2 houses of the Congress reject the decree will be no longer in force. However, it is worth mentioning that some associations have challenged the decree, claiming that it is not constitutional. And there are some claims in court at this moment with pending solutions.
Thanks a lot, Fernando. That's very helpful to understand what's going to happen, what had happened in Argentina. Please, now let's go with Mercedes. Hi, Mercedes. Tell us about the highlights from employment during 2023.
Thank you, Jaime, for having me. I will start talking about the enforcement of the Mexican official standard on teleworking conditions. This objective of this Mexican standard is to establish safety and health conditions in the workplaces where teleworking employees perform their activities. This in order to prevent accidents and diseases, as well as to promote a safe and healthy environment. This Mexican standard became effective in December 5 of 2023. In this regard, all companies that have employees working under this modality, which is mostly known as home office, are entitled to comply with obligations set in this standard.
Now, this is a whole new kind of modality, or is some way to regulate what began with the pandemic?
No, this Mexican standard does not foresee a new working modality. This working modality started since 2021 during the pandemic. However, this Mexican standard incorporates new obligations for employers. Among the new obligations for employers are to implement a teleworking modality policy, also provide training to telework employees on safety and health conditions, also with the use of technology, and to verify and validate the workplaces and the conditions of the location assigned by the employee of this modality. Additionally, to pay the proportional cost of internet and electricity consumption, and to provide ergonomic chairs.
Okay, and about this the payment of this cost of expenses generated by this kind of work, is it possible that the employer and the employee agree that this is going to be paid by the employee and not the employer?
Yes, it can be agreed between employer and employee. However, it is important to mention and point out that this is an employer obligation. If in the case that the employer decides not to pay this economic support to the employee, it must be agreed with the employee. It cannot be done unilaterally.
Okay, okay, perfect. What else is happening in 2023?
Yes, Jaime, another highlight that we have is the new list of occupational diseases. After more than 50 years, the federal labor law was amended to incorporate 88 new conditions across various categories. This update includes work-related health conditions such as mental disorders, cancers, as well as COVID-19, psychosocial diseases, and some diseases specific to women.
Now, what about this disease specific to women? I mean, how it is going to be handled?
Yes. This new list incorporate, as you mentioned, woman-specific diseases such as repeated miscarriages, endometriosis, or infertility. This covers industries where women are more exposed to environmental risks.
Okay, so do you think this is going to have an impact on hiring women in pregnancy age?
Yes, however, we suggest companies to implement necessary health measures and programs that helps to diminish the risk so that the companies will not have an impact on hiring women.
No. And this is going, you mean an economic impact because how do you pay the social security related with this new updated list?
Yes, in Mexico, employers paid Social Security, and one of the branches of this Social Security is labor risks. So because of the new list, companies should carefully evaluate the potential economic impact, particularly, as you mentioned, in the potential increase in the percentage paid of Social Security contributions to the Mexican Institute of Social Security.
Okay, okay, it's very clear. And what's going on during this year? What's going to happen in 2024?
Yes, for 2024, we have a trend towards modifying the working hours to 40 hours per week. This initiative is currently under discussion of the Congress in Mexico and is expected to be voted during the first semester of 2024. The implications for companies arising from the reduction of working hours will be substantial, affecting not only labor-related concerns, but also Social Security and tax matters. If this initiative is approved, employers will need to address some obligations such as employees' shifts, the calculation of vacation bonus, personnel to maintain the organization operability at the appropriate levels, among others.
Now, that's going to have a really economic impact in many companies.
Yes, because the salaries will be the same, will remain the same. So in change or in case of any change or modification to the salary must be agreed, as we previously mentioned, between the employer and the employee. And the employer will not be able to unilaterally amend any type of salary to the employees.
Well, let's see how it goes. Let's hope everything goes well for the industry in Mexico. I think it has been very helpful. Now we have a better understanding what's going on. Nothing. Thanks.
Thank you, Jaime. We'll keep you updated.
And now let's see what happened in Brazil. Hi, Roberta. Please tell us about all the highlights on labor and employment during 2023.
Hi, I'm very grateful to be here talking about labor issues in Brazil in 2023. So first of all, we are going to talk about the equal pay. On November 23rd of 2023, Brazil's Ministry of Labor issued the Federal Decree number 11,795 of 2023. The decree regulates the recently enacted gender pay parity law, the law number 14,611 of 2023, which provides for equal pay and remuneration criteria between women and men. So this law reinforces the impossibility of distinguished salaries between women and men and brought new developments in relation to measures that until then were not provided in Brazilian legislation, such as the establishment of salary transparency mechanisms and the provision of specific channels for reporting salary discrimination. So in summary, the new law provided the rules related to the salary transparency and remuneration criteria report. And the proposed is the objective comparison between salaries, remuneration, and the proportion of positions held between women and men. Although the information that must be included in the report has not been specifically defined, it was determined that companies with 100 or more employees must annually publish reports on salary transparency and remuneration criteria, and should include the positions or occupation in the Brazilian occupation classification system with their respective functions. Now we are going to talk about harassment prevention policy. So law number 14,457 of 2022, known for establishing the Employment Plus Women program, implemented a lot of measures to support the parenthood. The law creates mechanisms, strategies, and obligations that facilitate the entry, retention, and advancement of women in the job market. Among the various provisions, this law institutes measures to prevent and combat sexual harassment and other forms of violence in the workplace, and assigns the responsibility for these measures to the Internal Committee of Accident Prevention. In the same way, the ordinance number 14,290 of 2022 details from the International Committee of Accident Prevention obligations established by the law number 14,457 of 2022 and changed the nomenclature to Internal Committee for the Prevention of Accidents and Harassment. Even though such law was published in 2022, it started affecting companies for 2023. Now we are going to talk about work shift for teleworkers. The law number 14,442 of 2022 was published in October and regulates the telework provided in Article 75A in the following articles of the Brazilian Labor Code. Even though such law was published in 2022, it started affecting companies from 2023. It also consolidates significant change, given that it can impact companies' everyday activities from both an economical and practical perspective. With the advent of the law, working hours control became mandatory for teleworking, except for teleworking employees who provide their jobs based on production or tests. Before it, companies were not supposed to control telework work shifts, similar to what was practiced in the case of positions of trust. So, to control a shift for telework, the employer needed to adapt to digital tools, such as software that could determine the start and the end of the times of the workday. With working hours control, now the telework employees have the right to receive payment of overtime and daily hours stipulated in the contract.
Okay, Roberta, I understand. And what do you think is going to happen during 2024? What are the highlights that are coming the year?
I think it's the main topic is about the gigs work, about online platforms work, because the intersection of technology and work presents challenges and opportunities for a modern workforce. The sharing economy and the gig economy are examples of how technology is transforming the world of the work by creating new forms of employment. There is a long ongoing discussion regarding regulating gig workers in the country. However, these changes also bring with them challenges in relation to work conditions, remuneration, and social protection for workers. In Brazil, this has been an increasingly present topic in discussions about employment and labor rights. So we can say that these works that are subdivided into two subgroups, the delivery drivers and passenger transport driver. There is currently no specific legislation in Brazil regulating the work model intermediated by technology platforms in Brazil, which the federal government is addressing through the decree number 11.513, which established a working group to develop proposals for regulating these activities carrying out through this platform.
Okay, thank you, Roberta. It's very clear what's going on right now in Brazil. Let's hope everything's go as planned and we have a great new year. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your help. We appreciate your collaboration and let's expect the best for this 2024. Again, thank everybody for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you.